So I have this terrible love-hate relationship with LEDs. In fact, it's mostly hate with just a little bit of love. LEDs are a huge pain in the ass, no matter what, to wire up, to program, to put them in the right place on the frame. When they break, you gotta fix them. But at the same time, they're a huge asset, right? Your drone looks way cooler in the air. People don't hit you in the back. Some races require LEDs, and just in a large way, they can be very, very important things, but at the same time, they're super annoying to have on the quad. LEDs can save you from midair situations, right? I tend to try to be in front of people when I'm racing, obviously, and these tiny little drones that we fly around can't be seen very easily. So if you have some good LEDs on the back, it's going to be really useful for a situation when somebody might have the ability to pass you. You got to make sure that they can see you so that they're not going to be hitting you. Now, I don't know if it always solves that problem, but I prefer to have LEDs there than not, so that at least I can say, hey, why'd you hit me? LEDs can also be an extremely useful diagnostics tool. For example, on mine, I have it all hooked up to a switch that mimics the pit switch that I have on my drone. So I use the white noise Synergy flight controller, and that board has a pit switch for my VTX, so it turns my VTX all the way on and off. And when I'm using it, I have my LEDs wired into the flight controller so that when the pit switch is off, when the VTX is off, the LEDs are all cut. And as soon as I pull the switch to turn the VTX back on, the lights come on as red. And then when I arm my quad, the LEDs turn to green. Then the quad will also respond to error situations where there is something wrong, like it's not connecting to the receiver, or it's in an arm state that it can't be in, or it's in turtle mode, stuff like that, so that I can be more safe by looking at the quad. And all of that is because I have LEDs on board that are programmed. So when picking LEDs, or when I'm thinking about LEDs, I almost always say, no, I don't care about those features enough for it to matter, and instead just opt out of having LEDs altogether. But that's where the tiny LEDs or Tiny's LEDs or tiny sleds or whatever you want to call it, their satellites are the perfect solution for me personally for doing LEDs. They're these tiny little LED lights, and I'll show you some close-up videos of them, but they fit on the flight controller stack. And so basically you take a nut, you take the screw that your flight controller is mounted on, and you put the LED between the flight controller and that screw and that nut, and you can have the LED mounted really close to the flight controller really easily. It's out of harm's way, and you're going to be able to put those LEDs on really quickly. And in my case, I use the white noise Synergy, which has these little plugs in the back that are micro JST, so I can plug in a LED to it really easily and not have to do much soldering or work to make sure that my quads are situated. And if I never need to swap that flight controller, I just pull the plugs, put in a new one, and then plug it back in. But not only can they mount on the stack, they can actually mount anywhere there's a 2.5 millimeter screw. And for me, my favorite spot to put them is on the back of the quad underneath the rear standoffs. So you have the quad, you have the carbon fiber plate, you have the Tiny's LED satellite, and then on top of that you put the actual standoff for the frame. And then all through the middle of that is obviously the screw. But what that does is it puts the LED at the back, it's mounted really securely, it's out of prop strikes and danger of being hit by others, and it allows others to see the LED that's on your quad. And that combination of things makes it a pretty awesome combination. When I showed the way that I had this set up to Ty from Tiny's LEDs, he was like, oh, I never even thought about putting it there. And so I was really excited that I had kind of come up with something a little bit unique, something that other people haven't tried, but it's worked really well for me. And it's to the point where I don't mind actually building LEDs into my quad. These LEDs were initially brought to my attention by my buddy Amari. Amari is on the Team Heart of America, and in the Heart of America chat, he was at a race that was sponsored by Tiny's LEDs, and one of the products that they were giving away were the satellites. He posted a picture of them in our chat group, and I literally, I think I dropped what I was doing, went online and bought a bunch of them because I wanted to try them out. I thought that they were the perfect shape, size solution for LEDs for me, because I, again, hate LEDs. I just don't want to have anything to do with them. But if they're convenient and nice and easy to work with, maybe that's an idea worth playing with. What I will do is I'll actually just make a bunch of these little wire harnesses where there's a plug connected to the Tiny's LED, and then for the Synergy, it just plugs into the back like that. Nice and easy, totally succinct, easy to do. I don't have to fiddle around with it too much, and it's done. It's out of the way, and I haven't had to change one since I started doing that like a month ago. Now, a couple notes about working with these satellites is, one, the pads are actually kind of hard to hit. They're really small and they're between the LEDs and the actual opening for the screw to go through, and the pads are very, very small. So it's kind of hard to reach down in there with a soldering iron and get the wire and all of that at once. You have to do it off the quad. It's pretty much, it's possible, but it's a huge pain in the butt to do it on the quad. And then once you're done with that, it's all done, ready to go. You just plug it in. So at least on the outset, it's a little bit of a pain, but once you get it going, it's done. And then the other part is that you need to make sure that your flight controller can produce 5 volts for it, and it also needs that pin IO port to be able to connect to Betaflight. So in Betaflight, I have everything set up so that one switch turns on the pit switch and takes the LEDs out of LED low mode, which is one of the modes that's in the mode tab in Betaflight, and then the other one switches it to green when I arm the quad. So red is on, VTX on disarmed, and then green is VTX on armed, and that kind of is the perfect little combination for my LED system. Another thing worth mentioning is that these are super bright. I mean, they are absolutely tiny. Like, it's hard for you to even get a scale of like how big these are. Like, I have pretty big hands, but they're even small. Like, they're tiny. But these fit perfectly on the quad, and they're extremely bright. So like you can see them from just about anywhere. You can see them in broad daylight, and that to me is pretty impressive, pretty exciting. So I hope that this is just kind of a quick tip for you, a little suggestion to try putting some LEDs back on your quad. I've put links in the description below to Tiny's LEDs, and there's a coupon code as well for some percent off. It's not a ton, but it's something because they're pretty cheap little products, and they're built by a community member that is excited about making cool products for the community. So I hope that you'll check them out. I hope that you'll go grab yourself a couple, try it out, put some LEDs on there. I want to see them on quads the next time I go racing so that I don't hit you when I'm passing you. And in the meantime, I hope that this was good, useful information, and stay flying.